Alabama takes on South Florida in the game of the century. No, I'm just kidding. They're playing South Florida coming up on Saturday, and they've got a lot of stuff to work on as 32-point favorites. This is Elephant in the Room. He's Jay Coker. I'm Mick Gillispie. Great to have you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Part of Disrupt the Media and Roll Tide Pods. You got to be a part of Roll Tide Pods. How you been, man?
Man, doing good. Last week we talked about, or I guess Monday we talked about how we're going to prep and talk about the South Florida game. And I believe I saw where they lost. I was planning on watching the South Florida game from last week, and I believe they lost to Western Kentucky by 20 points. And I said, I'm not watching shit. We're just going to – we know how this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
We just hope the quarterback situation's figured out and the defense shows up and we look sharp.
Yeah, I got a feeling that we're going to look sharp. I mean, right? I mean, you have to. You can't go in there and – like, I always feel like Saban's in some of these games where he's like, we're not covering. Like, I don't know if he really thinks that, but it feels that way. I just got this we're covering feeling.
Yeah, I imagine, every time we'd lose, which, I mean, wasn't much, back then, but and we get out there and it didn't matter if we did everything perfect. Practice started 2 or 3 times over and we'd be out there for 3.5, 4 hours. And I imagine they've gone through that a couple times this week.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what the intensity's like, but, former players have come out this week, and I don't want to say they've criticized the players or the team or anything like that, but they've thrown their opinion out there. Trent Richardson, who I love Trent Richardson. He was one of my favorite Bama players. Shout out to your former teammate, Bo Scarborough.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely loved him, and Bama Standard, like he's got his own show, and he's talked a lot about what he thinks, and it makes me laugh, but I know he's like he's right,
Yeah.
When you see those, what do you think?
I'm far more mild as far as throwing my opinion out there on that kind of stuff, but at the same time, I know when I was playing, I always thought about that previous generation that came in front of me, and wanted to, at least for them to see me play, they knew that I was giving everything I had for the program and the dynasty that they had started. And I get where they're coming from. I saw Reggie Ragland posted that video. What he said, this breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And I mean, guys were getting tossed around and everybody just kind of looked around like,
yeah,
okay, we'll just let this happen. Well, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, man, I tell you, if that would have happened, there would have been a brawl on somebody else's sideline. It just, it seems to me that we used to bully people. And again, I'm not saying we're not, but we didn't show in that Texas game.
Yeah, it didn't happen in Texas. I'm wondering if and how you turn this around, because the more I've looked at it, and I'm not watching South Florida. I don't need to know anything about them. I think this is all about Alabama. And that game against Texas, they just lost in so many aspects of the game. I mean, you lose the penalty battle with, all those penalties, bad penalties, ones that take touchdowns away, ones that extend drives for Texas. You lose the turnover battle. Those two together normally mean you're going to lose unless you're a really good team and you can overcome that, but they lost that. They got beat on both sides of the ball. They didn't get a pass rush. And then Texas was like rushing 3. And I've said this. I felt like Jalen Milroe did some good things, but he looked really, confused in the pocket. The offensive line had a couple of guys that the true freshman Proctor. He's going to be good. I know he is, but he wasn't good on in Texas game on Saturday. And then, you got your veteran centers and not snapping the ball consistently. Maybe that's because of the pressure from Texas's defense. You got to give Texas some credit, but you roll all that stuff into a ball, and that's a lot of shit to fix.
Yeah, and again, I think it all kind of starts with the culture, and nothing really bothered me out of anything any players said after that game. Outside of, I know there was one comment, and I can't remember who said it, but whoever it was said that I hear the noise from outside, but those players didn't go through what we go through nowadays. And I think I guess he's referring to the NIL stuff and all that. But, again, everybody from the outside looking in really doesn't care what you're going through, what decisions you have to make off the field. And nobody's really going to care outside of, either you're a winner or you're a loser.
Yeah.
And if you're a winner, it's cool to talk about all the shit that you went through.
Yeah.
If you're a loser, okay, you failed, and nobody remembers you.
Yeah. The thing that I wonder is with these NILs, you played for Nick Saban before NIL, now NIL's here. Do you think that it's tougher for the head coaches, not just Nick Saban, but any head coach, to really lay down discipline when you got transfer portal? When you transferred, there were a bunch of rules that you had to go through to transfer. I mean, you couldn't just say, hey, you know what, I'm going there. I mean, you had to sit out, or, you had to get waivers and all that stuff. Now it's like, half the team could just say, hey, we're out of here. And there's no there's no regulation on that right now, except I guess like time frame. And then NIL, now it was supposed to be for guys like you go out there. I see you're on the picture. Let me switch you that over there so everybody can see that. You're on you're there. I was showing my son Jake this. That's Jake right there. You earn that to be on there. You sign it, you should get some money, even if you're a student, right?
Actually, Daniel Moore helped me out on this. Shout out Daniel Moore. Meant a lot to me.
How cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I see all the ones you got on here. I mean, going over to friends' houses, some of my family, seeing these Daniel Moore prints, to be a part of that, man, it's just
in the middle too. I mean, you're in the middle of that.
Yeah, no, I can't believe that. When he called me and asked me about signing these, I was expecting Derek to be right here.
Yeah, right.
But that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, like our friend Mike Johnson, he's in one, but it's like the corner of one.
Hey,
he's in there though.
For no lineman to make it, man.
Yeah, he was great though. Great guy too.
But it's changing times. I know we were talking before we started about some of Bo Scarborough's comments, and Bo is one of my favorite teammates. He's a phenomenal guy, and I noticed in one of his comments, he said it's a privilege to play at Alabama, and it truly is.
Yeah.
When I just growing up, and again, when I was coming out, there was no money in it. It was just you're playing where you were offered a scholarship, and for me to have the opportunity to transfer back to Alabama, I remember as soon as we won the national championship and they handed us that trophy, I looked at Coach Saban and I was like, Coach, thank you so much for this opportunity. It just meant so much to me just to represent Alabama.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, again, that comment, we go through different things. Well, again, nobody cares. You're playing in Alabama. Everybody who has played at Alabama for you is just so thankful for that opportunity and put everything they had on the line for that red jersey. Make it happen.
Yeah.
Figure it out and play for the team, play for the program, play for the history.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of soul searching to do. That's what bothers me about this loss. And I don't know if I said that last time, but I'll say it again. This loss felt different than all the other ones that Alabama's had. And I can go back and, there's been some whoopings, but when you really look at it, Alabama just got whooped on the scoreboard. They didn't get whooped on the field. Like the national championship one of the ones they lost to Clemson, where Tua threw some interceptions, but they're moving the ball the entire game. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Get down in the red zone. They didn't score, but they were there. And I'm thinking like score wise, that was probably one of those. Some of the bowl games that they lost after they were out of it, guys like opted out.
Yeah. The Utah.
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. Right. But I still felt like in those games that we did a lot of things right. We just didn't have the guys in the spots that they would have been in because the mentality is always you're winning a championship or it's bust.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody really, obviously people care about losses. It's a tough thing to see Alabama lose, especially in this state. But I think everybody's okay with a loss as long as, you're physically dominating your opponent. And, I always go back to this Ole Miss loss. I mean, geez, I always say if we had had one more quarter, well, the ball was bouncing a certain way the entire time. We just shot ourselves in the foot. But the effort, I couldn't point at one guy on that field and say, he took this play off or he took that play off. It was always 100% getting after it, playing for your team, and that was it. That was the standard. And look, Coach Saban, to me, best all time, best there ever will be. When I love Jimbo to death. Played at Florida State for Jimbo. I don't think he had the resources at Florida State that Coach Saban did. Mm-hmm. When I got from Florida State to Alabama, and again, all the staff at Florida State, they were great, did a great job, but they just didn't have the help or resources that Alabama had, and that was something that Coach Saban understood, provided for his players. I mean, you didn't have to go. You went to that football complex, you had meals, you had massages, you had rehab, you had whatever it was. You're never hungry. I mean, it was a 5-star accommodation. Yeah. And then on top of that, you got the best coaches in the country teaching you. Yeah. And now I know he's gone through a lot of turnover and he's got a lot of pieces to put together. But my gosh, you've got everything at your fingertips. To say that Coach Saban, is at fault for some of this, maybe a few schemes here and there, but the culture is there, everything, the foundation is there. Yeah. Maybe there is a difference in this generation. I'm not sure, but it just doesn't seem like the players are bought into that tradition that's been there for so long.
Yeah. It didn't feel like that. Late kick. And Josh Pate, I met him at SEC at the SEC Media Days. He's on 24/7 Sports. He's who I'm talking about, the bald guy, a big buff guy, really nice dude.
I saw that clip.
That clip. And he was talking about if you didn't see it, about Alabama's coaches and kind of comparing the ones that you worked with some of the guys that are there now. And he was pretty critical, and basically was saying, hey, the guys that were there before, you saw that with Sark, obviously the offensive game plan that Texas ran against Alabama was brilliant. And look, before you really bury Tommy Rees, I mean, you got to remember the guy's only been there 2 games. He's a young guy. I mean, he's still learning, but he got out pretty. I mean, if you're comparing apples to apples.
Oh yeah.
And I guess Josh, kind of gave a couple things that he thought might be the reason why, that Alabama doesn't have the same firepower and assistant coaches than they used to have.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people had issues with Bill O'Brien. We've talked about this before. I mean, that guy's resume is as long and as deep as anybody's in the country. I mean, he's one of the best there is. And, I think Tommy Rees is trying to game plan and not real sure at times who's going to be the quarterback, and he's trying to game plan around all 3 of those guys, just trying to figure things out as he goes. And, it's kind of like that national championship game 3 years ago when we had, Bill O'Brien in there, and we got a bunch of brand new freshmen. He's trying to piece together all these plays that everybody's comfortable with. I think Tommy Rees is kind of in the same situation where he's got a lot of different personnel groups, a lot of different quarterbacks. He's trying to, put the best game plan together for whoever he thinks may be in the game.
Yeah. I wonder too, being a young guy like that, how intimidating it must be to work for Saban. And if you want to make a big change, like if you said, hey, I feel more comfortable with Buckner and you switch out Buckner for Milroe, I mean, how's that going to go over? Are you comfortable enough in your second game to just, or is it one of those things where you're kind of just there? I mean, you're trying to, what I mean? Like you just don't, there could be a comfort level too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, what plays are you calling for this guy that's in the game now? And then if you switch here because he's not playing well, you feel like you've coached him all week, 3 months, however long it's been. If things don't work out, okay, man, do I have to resettle this whole offense in just one half? I mean, there's a lot of different variables in there. And again, we talk about identity on this podcast. We talked about it for a couple episodes now. Once you figure out who you are and what you do best, that kind of starts with the quarterback, and you'd like to see some continuity at that position.
Yeah, no doubt. Our show is brought to you by Lance's Lock. Going into Saturday, if you want to do the opposite of me, and that's actually win the games that you wager, Lance's Lock can give you the help that you need. And don't forget that all that can be done at my bookie. So those two work hand in hand. Don't take my advice on any of the games that I've been picking lately, including me taking Tennessee this Saturday, because I don't know.
I went over 3, so I probably need to call Lance.
get a hold of Lance and Lance's Lock, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man, it's going to be a fun Saturday though of college football. I mean, I think that this Florida and Tennessee game is going to be telling, because I think the SEC is just having a down year.
It's a big upheaval. You don't know who's going to show up, and it seems like there's a lot of young teams out there. And I mean, Florida being one of those teams that kind of hadn't figured it out. Tennessee not really showing up when they should.
Mm-hmm.
I think I may have to take Florida in that one.
Yeah, so you get 7 points.
Oh yeah,
but they looked so bad against Utah, right? But maybe Utah's good.
I mean, look, I'm throwing that out there. I went over for 3 last weekend.
So did I.
So
yeah, I'm just like, every game I'm like, how do I keep losing? Like I just, so I'm gonna
just blame Vegas.
Yeah, right. How do they know? How do they know how in the hell do they get so close to not only the score of the game, but also the over under? Like it's absolutely amazing how they can get so close on those spreads.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, had I been into gambling when I was playing, I'm sure I'd have looked around like, all right, who's calling a Vegas area code? Who's the guy?
Yeah. Was he coaching baseball?
Lane, who you calling?
Yeah. It's insane. Like the thing about it is, like, I'll go to Pearl River. They got a sports book out there. It's not too far from Tuscaloosa, and just go out there and throw some bets down. And I'm always, you get into the fourth quarter, and I don't care how many cards you have, at least 8 of the 10 are right around the number.
No, yeah.
Like late in the game, you're like, man, if they score here, they're right on it again.
Well, that's what I've always thought. I mean, a lot of my buddies used to call me a Joe because I'd bet on, Joe Public. I'd be betting on the obvious bets, lose. And then some of them would say, all right, here's what you got to do. Look at, if you feel like you got to have balls to take that pick, then take it. Baylor -7.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, makes no sense. Bet it.
And
they just lost to Texas State. Now who they played last weekend? Was it
maybe Texas Tech?
No, Texas Tech played Oregon. That was another one.
It was another one.
They were -7.
Yeah,
and they lost by 8, I think.
Yeah.
Because Oregon returned. They got a pick 6 at the end.
Yeah,
covered by 8.
Yeah,
or covered by 1.
Yeah.
So it's I go based on Vegas has to know something.
Yeah, they're just due, and Vegas is a fun place to hang out too. You've been out there before. We went right before COVID. I'd worked all these years, and I finally get to to do Major League Cub stuff, and the first assignments, we're going out to Vegas to do the Cubs and the Reds. So, I'm like, all right, get my wife to go, and we're staying at the Cosmopolitan, and then do the 2 games. And then I'm like, we just got to stay. It's been a lot. It's a long ride. Let's just, we didn't fly back with the team. I'm like, I'll just get my own flight back home. We're going to stay here and hang out.
Yeah.
And then like a week later, we're looking for toilet paper, but I had such a blast out there, man. Like just, it's so much fun. And no matter what time it is, something's going on.
Yeah.
I love that about
I had an event out there. I had to go speak at an A Club event or not an A Club, an alumni association event.
Yeah.
And I was like, who am I speaking to? They're like, all the alumni that live in Vegas. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What kind of group is that? Alabama to Vegas.
Who are these people?
So they paid me a little bit, and then I lost all that money on horse races, and I was like, get me back to Mobile.
Yeah, out of here. Was it a big crowd of Alabama people in Vegas?
No, it wasn't.
I didn't think that.
But it was a good crowd.
It was a good crowd.
Oh yeah, you got to think if you're moving to Vegas, you're all about a good time.
Yeah, that's true. When you do those, like, what's your like game plan on speaking? Like, do you wing it, or do you like have like a prepared speech?
I pretty much wing it.
Wing it, yeah.
I fill out the crowd. If it's like a Bible Belt crowd, keep it between the lines.
Right.
And if it's a Vegas crowd, I can really let loose.
Yeah. Like look around like, all right, I can tell you guys about this.
Yeah.
Man, I can't stand when you get up in front of a big group of people and talk. Like like I've been behind the microphone forever, but when I'm in front of it like that, like because if you have them on your side, you can tell.
Oh yeah.
But then it's like when they're bored, you're sitting there like talking, and somebody's like yawning, and like people are like doing other stuff.
I spoke one time in Dothan, and I get up on the podium, and I'm looking out, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I see one guy in a Georgia hat, and that's when we were just beating the shit out of Georgia.
Yeah.
Here. And I was like, oh, got somebody to make fun of, and everybody's gonna be on my side.
Yeah. Who let this guy in there?
If a joke doesn't land, make fun of Georgia.
Yeah, right. You can direct it that way. No, it's so funny. So the game on Saturday. This is such an odd game because I don't remember. I'm trying to think. When's the last time when we played at one of these spots?
Yeah.
It's got to be Duke, right? When Alabama played at Duke.
I remember that. Yeah, Mark Ingram was playing. I think AJ the quarterback. Was that McElroy?
Might have been McElroy, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it was AJ. But it was back in those days.
Yeah, it was like 60-0.
It was like a high school field, and
we used to play them when I was at Florida State, and I swear the line was longer for basketball season tickets than the people in the stands.
Yeah. It's crazy, like with the conference realignment, like where these schools are gonna like end up, like you see, like Cal and it was like Cal and Stanford and SMU, and they're like begging, like, please let us in. We don't want any of the TV money for a decade,
And they're gonna end up flying like 5 hours, across 3 time zones to play half their games.
Right. We'll play all the games on the road. Because no one cares.
Want nothing. We want nothing.
No one cares about your school sports.
No, that's right. That's right.
I wonder, like, when they finish all the realignment, what the SEC is going to look like.
I don't know. I can't wait though. I wish. I'd love to see Florida State and Miami in the SEC.
Really?
I'm so ready for it, because over the last few years, I feel like, this weekend there's Texas there's Florida and Tennessee.
Right.
But I'm trying to, I think South Carolina and Georgia play, but I'm ready for week after week. Just, knockout, drag out fights.
Yeah. Well, Alabama's schedule this year kind of fits what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, no, that's right.
That's
right.
But I know what you're saying. Like, I'll tell you that I'll throw this out and get your thoughts on it. I was talking about this the other day. I think what made college football so great, games like Alabama and Texas, it's week 2, right? But it's a playoff game. Because if you lose, you probably are pretty close to being out of it, right?
And everybody's afraid. Well, of course, the new playoff people won't
changes
be as
everything,
scared.
right? Yeah, but I'm saying like I think that's what made the regular season so special is that all these games mean so much. Well, next year they're not going to mean as much.
Well, can you imagine how much money was made, for that Alabama-Texas game if you had those every weekend?
Yeah,
in your college town. I mean, it would be ridiculous the amount of revenue that would be made, and that's at the end of the day, that's what they're all about.
Yeah, Do you think it'll water down though, like the meaning of a lot of these games? That's what I'm curious about. Is it going to be like? I just feels like when these games happen, it is such a huge deal. I mean, you look at Tuscaloosa on Saturday, or the last time they lost. The president of the United States was there.
Yeah.
Like they had to shut the streets down. There were like, thousands and thousands of people that were all hanging out because, it was like the people that were in the stadium and then the people that were out. I just wonder if it changes, the dynamic of the regular season.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, I guess it may water down LSU and Alabama has never lost its weight as long as both teams are good,
Yeah.
And if Alabama ever brings Notre Dame into town or Notre Dame brings Alabama, those,
yeah,
I just don't see it. I know I can't stand, and maybe you're right. I mean, those off weekends, they're just kind of brutal. And then once you get one with 3 or 4 games that you love, it's like, man, it glue me to the TV.
Yeah.
I can't get enough.
Yeah. Like I'm excited about Tennessee. I want to see what Joe Milton can do in a big game. Is their offense legit like it was last year?
Well, that's what, even though Florida presumably is not very good, I've got that circled. I love that matchup.
Me too.
I love those two teams, just the history of the programs.
Yep.
I think that's what everybody's, really all about is the historical success of each program.
Yeah.
And seeing them play against each other.
Right.
Now, Tennessee, I guess for a few years that was pretty rough, but you still tuned in to watch.
Yeah. Well, they're interesting, like the way that their offense works. I went to the Tennessee-Pittsburgh game 2 years ago. I had to do baseball, and they were having a game, and we got tickets. I took Jody Davis, former Cub. He's a huge Georgia fan, so he was the Georgia guy wearing the no team in the fight hat. Tell you the funny story. I can tell it now. We always talk smack. There's a group of us that talk smack on the phones and stuff. And Jody played for the Cubs back when, like in the 80s. And he was like, grow up in Gainesville, Georgia. He's a huge Dogs fan. I mean, he's playing for the Cubs and he's like racking up these long distance bills before you could like just listen to the game on the internet and stuff. He would call his mom and she'd put the radio up by the phone. I mean, like he's diehard, So those days when Alabama just kept beating them, So 2017, like he's sure this is the year, right? And they get to it, and then we didn't hear from him for a while. we didn't hear from him for a while. So when they finally won, I was like right off the bat,
Well, it's so funny. I mean,
congratulations.
My father-in-law and I talk about, it's always better when Tennessee's actually good and it's kind of a good competition.
Yeah.
And then we got beat last year and we were like, screw those guys. I hope they suck again next year.
Oh, what you didn't know, and going back to me being old again, but when I was in school, we lost to Tennessee every single year. Philip Fulmer was the head coach, who I've gotten to know, by the way, through baseball, and broadcasted a softball game with his daughter. And I actually like him. I mean, but I was hosting the Alabama college radio station pregame show. And every week we would we would send a call out to the athletic department. Hey, would Coach so-and-so come on? And then none of them came on. None of the coaches came on ever. Head coaches, they would treat us like Alabama treats the local media. Like you're not getting any access. And so Bud Ford's the guy at Tennessee, and he's like, How long do you need coach for? So we're like, well, 5 minutes, you know? So now we got Coach Fulmer on our like Alabama college radio station pregame show.
Is that
right?
when you're like, oh shit, what are we asking?
Like, I'm like, no, this is like the greatest thing ever. Like, this is gonna be, you know, like I'm gonna be like Walter Cronkite here, you know, like I'm taking this interview to the next level, man. I got Philip Fulmer on. I'm gonna ask him all the questions that no one's asking, you know, or whatever. I don't know. So I get him on there. And I mean, like, it was like a recorded interview, which was really hard to do back in those days. Like, technology wasn't anything like it is now. And I guess I asked him if Alabama and Tennessee was still a rivalry. And, you know, he got recruited by Bear Bryant and he almost came to Alabama. And then, you know, Alabama has worn them out over the years. I mean, you know, like nothing like what Saban did, but, you know, but kind of like that, you know, long streaks of winning. And so I asked him that, and I think that might have kind of got him unraveled a little bit. And then I went over the 5 minutes and he ripped my ass. He's like, 5 minutes is 5 minutes, like just starts. And I'm like a college kid. I'm like, oh my God, what am I, you know? Sitting there like just, you know, it's over the phone.
I'm just trying to pay rent.
Yeah, right. Like we're all like gathered around the equipment, like he was just getting tore up by Philip Fulmer. So I've always been like, now I'm like, well, if it's 5 minutes, I just got to make sure it's 5 minutes. So then I do baseball for Tennessee, the Smokies, and he comes every once in a while as a guest or whatever. And I never said anything about it. And then last time I was like, hey, just got to tell you, remember that time you yelled at, you know, like no. I was like, well, I do. You yelled at me. But when I was in school, they kicked our ass, man. It was terrible. I mean, like, you know, it was like Travis Stevens and Peyton Manning and T, you know, from down here, you know, and T Martin and I mean Peerless Price and Jason Witten. I was on the sideline at the game as a student broadcaster or something, and Jason Witten was like catching passes, and Alabama like got like 5 guys trying to bring him down, and he's just like carrying the whole team down the field, and it was terrible, right? And they would just take our faces and rub it right in the shit. You know, like they enjoyed that winning streak, right? So then we start beating them, and I'm on the show on my old radio show with Baron Huber, who's from there and played and didn't get recruited with Tennessee, came to Alabama, and he always took joy in beating them because of that. And then Mike Johnson, who grew up in Pensacola as a Florida State fan, and then ended up going to Alabama.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, as a kid he was, and then now he, you know, obviously Alabama, loves Alabama. And then one of my other buddies was on the show who was in school with me. You know, so we would get to that week and be like, man, this is a huge rivalry, and they're like, oh. Man, no, LSU's our rival, you know. And then this year it's like, they made up for 15 years of losing because they got all their shit talk back in on us. All of it. Like they and more.
Oh, I think we could go, you know, 2-10. And as long as Tennessee's one of those wins, we're all right.
But I think people needed to get that. They needed to get that taste again. Because I think everyone forgot.
Get the hate back.
Yeah.
Sharpen that knife a little bit.
It's like, oh, they're not a rival. Man, they're trying to beat us every single year. You know, and the funny thing is, like, over the course of you know, football history for the two schools, like, you know, they're changing coaches to try to beat, you know, General Nealon's coming in to beat Alabama, and Bear Bryant's coming in to beat, you know, Tennessee. And so Nick Saban had such a amazing run to beat those guys. 15 straight.
Hey, you lose count.
Yeah, the one that you guys won, you had the comeback, right?
Yeah, we were losing. We won 19-14.
Yeah.
So it was 14-13, came back at the end.
It was like I told you, like Derrick Henry ran over him in the third quarter. I was in the concession line trying to get some Diet Coke for the bourbon I smuggled in, and I missed the entire third quarter. I get back, and I'm like, man, this is a game. And they had Josh Dobbs. It's a pretty good Tennessee team.
We had a few. I mean, it was like, had a few incomplete passes, and I threw an interception in the red zone. And I just for those that don't know, we had a play run. It was like we called it a smoke, and then a go. It was a cover 2 hole shot between the safety and the corner. And I sat there and I looked at him, and for some reason, I waited too long, throw the interception, and I was like, oh my God, you're going to lose to effing Tennessee.
Yeah.
I was like in my mind. And when we finally got that ball back down 14-13, I was like, you better make this shit happen.
Yeah, right.
Not, you're out of here.
Didn't you? Was that the game you had a big run in? Maybe not.
What
was
maybe.
It? There was one game where they all kind of like
Texas A&M probably.
Oh, it's Texas A&M.
That's probably the one.
Yeah, you're like
because every week every year that game comes on, I get like all kinds of texts and calls about
yeah.
Remember this?
Yeah. That should have been my Daniel Moore. Yeah. So yeah, well, like I honestly, like, I enjoy watching Tennessee play of our rivals. I mean, like I like that style of football.
All the big ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I love watching them all.
Ole Miss, now that they got Lane Kiffin, I want to watch them.
Oh yeah, must see TV.
Yeah.
Now.
I lost we talked about I lost last week taking Tulane, but still like a fun offense to watch. They're not really having the success running the ball this year like last year. And I think that's going to eventually cost them.
I do too. But, again, there's so much movement in that offense. And, later on in the year, I think he thinks ahead, week 2, 3, 4, and 5 weeks down the road. I think he's like, you know what? Georgia does it. Tennessee does this. We're going to set them up against Tulane. They're going to watch this film, and then we're going to screw them later on down the line.
Yeah, how do you even do something like that? Like, that to me is incredible.
I think he watches his, obviously he's watching his own film all the time, and I think he's like, this looks like a scheme right here. I think they probably caught on to this. We're going to do this and really catch them off guard.
Yeah. How tough is it to like watch film and game plan off of it?
I mean, I think the scary thing is that you
need a refill.
Yeah, I'll take one.
Yeah, you tell that story. I'm going to get us.
No, I think the scary thing is you see, what he does most often, but at the same time, you got to think, knowing Lane, there's no telling what kind of different looks he may come out with this week, and how he's going to, highlight new players and just figure out new ways to get people open. That year when we had Amari Cooper, Blake Sims senior year, I mean, the ways that he just figured out how to get him open was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, he just find a way to get him matched up on the right guy, slide him wherever he needed to be.
So he's watching the film and he's going, hey, look, when they do this guy has to cover this guy. And so what we're going to do is when that happens, we're going to run this play because that's going to put him in that spot and they're not going to have enough time to fix it. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's crazy.
This is what they've game planned.
Yeah.
This is what they've done all year. This is the percentage of looks you get based on this personnel and this formation. This is what we're going to do. And if they do something different, we'll figure it out, later on down the road.
Who are the guys on this team, this Alabama team, that you look at and think, I really like this player?
Again, I would say it's a little bit too early to tell. I mean, the transfer from Georgia, what's his name?
Marshall? No, it's not him.
I mean, he's the proven guy.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody outside of him is brand new, and you're
talking about Burton.
Yeah,
Burton. Yeah.
I mean, everybody else is kind of brand new.
Yeah.
And you really hadn't seen enough yet to really know how all of them are going to respond. I mean, got a few glimpses last week, but I think you figure out a little bit later on down the road.
Yeah. I thought Isaiah Bond was good. I mean, like, I like his hands.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was an area where Alabama needed to improve.
Yeah. And the only reason I say that is I think, again, when we started my senior year, when we, started off the season, Robert Foster was the starter. He was the Z receiver. He started over Calvin Ridley. Robert got hurt, and then Calvin came in, and we always knew Calvin was going to play because he was so talented. And just throughout the year, it was crazy, and it was the whole team's fault and my fault as well, as far as getting him the ball and getting that timing down right. But man, once he figured it out, it was like, this guy is Amari Cooper 2.0.
Yeah.
And you just never really know until that guy figures out, exactly all the small details. When they figure that out and realize the importance of that, oh man, it can change a player.
I thought what Alabama used to do really well with Lane Kiffin when you were there, and then Sark, would be they would play, they do the receiver screens, and the guys would block so damn good. Like, like it would be like a devastating play because of the blocking.
Oh yeah. I mean, Ardarius Stewart, one of my favorite teammates I've ever played with. I've never seen anybody as dangerous as that guy. Not caring about his body, just throwing it around.
Yeah.
I remember we were playing Clemson, and I handed it off to Derek one play, and I see I'm carrying out my fake, and I look over, and Derek reverses field, and I see, I think his name was Ben Boulware. He's the linebacker for Clemson. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to get in the way and try to block this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm running, and he's kind of running alongside me, and I'm getting closer and closer. And then all of a sudden, it was like he got hit by a freight train. I mean, boom, he just disappears, and I'm like, oh my God! He's like screaming and yelling, and Ardarius is just talking trash. I was like, oh my, I'm looking at a crime scene.
Yeah.
So what just happened? And he would do that all the time, and he was just headhunting all the time, and to speak to that culture. I mean, wide receivers getting down the field doing more than they had to,
right?
Putting their bodies on the line. That's when guys that are used to a lot of attention, catching touchdowns, and making plays, when they're willing to do that kind of stuff, that's when you've got a special team. Yeah,
right. And that's what they've got to try to get to now. I'm curious as to who is going to be the starting quarterback. I just don't know. Like, Saban has had a lot of nice things to say this week about Buckner. He played Milroe last week, didn't pull him out. They had a chance to go back and watch the film. I know that Buckner had the relationship with Tommy Rees. Jalen Milroe, though, brings like such a skill set, I'm just so curious to see like what that's going to look like.
Yeah. I would have thought, I would think that, this is kind of playing out like my first year at Alabama when Blake was a starter. I mean, I would have thought that had he put in Ty Simpson or Buckner, then there was a chance that somebody else may end up starting, 3-4 games in. But when you leave him in that entire Texas game, that tells me most likely changes aren't going to be made. And again, like we've talked about, in prior podcasts, I do think Jalen's got the talent to do that. It just depends on how we develop and can we make stops on defense.
Yeah.
That's the key element of all of it.
Right. I mean,
making stops on defense.
Yeah.
And allowing the offense to develop, throughout the season and become one of those teams that can really, really do damage on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. This is a good week to have a game like this. But the fact that it's on the road, I mean, that's a different look. I don't think that it's going to slow down Alabama. But if they struggle again, then I'm really going to be worried.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when we played Ole Miss, and after that game, I'm not going to say Coach Kiffin didn't want me to be the starter, but I don't feel like he was 100% in.
Mm-hmm.
And we played Western Kentucky, and I mean, Coach Saban had announced it was a done deal, and I just remember Lane was he was like trying to calm himself down when I'd make a bad read against Western Kentucky, and it was kind of like a settle down moment. Okay, here's what we got to do. This is your read here. This is your read here. Let's calm down. Let's get it done. And throughout the season, it was kind of just a build up of confidence, and he kind of helped me throughout the rest of the year. And I kind of got a feeling that's the way it's going to go with Milroe here.
Yeah, right. What makes a good quarterback coach?
I think somebody, who, and we've talked about this before. I think it's, somebody who can explain, here's what the goal of the defense is to do. This is the strength of their defense.
Right.
This is what they're trying to do.
Laying it out.
Yeah. Here's the concept, and here's how we attack it. And this is what you do in case this happens.
Yeah.
And really explain to where you're not, again, when you catch that ball, you catch that snap or get that snap, you're not looking at the whole defense like, oh, shit.
Yeah, right, right.
You know exactly what to look at, and you can make that decision pretty quickly. Boom, boom, boom. We're done.
Yeah. See, I think having a good offensive coordinator, too, would help you because those guys are going to know, like, what to – they're going to call plays based on what would be easy to have success with where you are as far as your development, too, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think coaches make players.
Yeah.
Make quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think, for me, the quarterbacks coach that I gelled with the best was Randy Sanders. I love him to death. I think so highly of him. And when I played for him at Florida State, we just got each other. We could hang out off the field and get along. And I mean, hell, if I was his age, we'd probably be smoking cigars and playing golf today. But I mean, he just, he broke things down and spoke to me in a way, and we communicated in a way where, he was really able to transfer that message to where I could understand it and really transfer that to the field. Yeah. And really gain a whole new perspective on football.
Yeah.
And, Lane was a great offensive coordinator. We didn't always get along.
Yeah.
And I think that, kind of slowed my development, and a lot of that was my fault. But I think he's a great coach, but again, I think players make quarterbacks. I mean, coaches make quarterbacks.
Right. All right, this is our 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning, but let me remind you guys, our show is brought to you by Lance's Lock. So if you're going to make the wagers happen this weekend, don't take anything I say seriously. Check out Lance's Lock and make all your picks at my bookie. And let's talk about we got 2 more minutes to talk football. What kind of music did you listen to? What was the locker room like before games? What kind of music? I got you as country music. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, mostly rock.
Oh, rock. Okay.
Rock and country, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were walking through the Walk of Champions, I always had Inner Sandman on.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
We went to Virginia Tech when I was at Florida State, and they played that song. I mean, Virginia Tech.
Oh, that's their thing. Yeah.
And I was hoping so bad that Jimbo would let us walk out of the tunnel and see that.
Yeah.
He didn't. So it sounded, we're in the locker room, and it felt like that place was going to collapse on top of you, which may have been more intimidating. I don't know.
Did you guys win?
We did.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we did.
Good. You won a lot of games when you were there.
Yeah.
What's your college record? I mean, it's got to be pretty sparkling.
It was a lot to a little, that's for sure.
That makes it
fun.
But
I only take credit for 1 year of it. So.
Yeah, I know. But still, I mean, if you're there, I mean, So we got the game on Saturday. Let's get back together on Monday again, and we'll kind of break down what happened. And next week it gets serious again. I feel like, no disrespect to the Bulls, but I feel like this is more of a tune-up, and then after that, I mean, it's it's balls to the wall.
If Alabama loses this weekend, we won't be talking about Alabama anymore.
Yeah,
this will be.
You want guys to stay healthy, though, right? That's. I think with these games, I'm always worried. Like, don't get anyone hurt.
That's right. It's a confidence builder. It's a kind of an experimental week. You kind of figure out what everybody's comfortable with moving forward, and try to build an identity for the team.
Yeah. We talked about the Florida and Tennessee game. Let's talk about the other big game, Colorado State against Colorado. Game day's going to Boulder.
I was sitting there watching TV Saturday, and I was sitting there with some guys, and I was like, when would you have ever thought you'd woken up and been looking forward to watching Colorado play?
I know. I loved it too.
Never.
Yeah,
never.
No.
And now you can't look away.
They underestimated Dion. They just and I mean that in a way where when there were coaching jobs available, and it was like I thought, well, maybe he goes to Auburn, maybe he goes to somewhere else, and it was like when you saw the list of schools, it was like wasn't South Florida one of them? It was like South Florida or Colorado, like Kansas. I mean, like, are you guys not seeing what this guy's doing? And now it's like he's absolutely transformed the whole roster with transfers. And I don't know how many games they're going to win, but, man, they're off to a pretty good start.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, look, he's brought in the players he's got there. I mean, you knew he'd flip a roster. As soon as he came in there and said, I've got Gucci or whatever he said as far as his baggage.
Didn't he say,
ran all those
we
guys
coming?
out.
Isn't that what he said?
A lot theme music.
Yeah. He brought his baggage. That was his son. He was actually a pretty damn good quarterback. Those passes.
I never watched.
What?
I don't know if I ever watched Jackson State play, but when I saw him play TCU, I was like, my goodness, this guy is good.
Yeah, he was throwing those like deep outs, and I'm like, what is this for real?
Oh yeah, or getting hit in the mouth.
Yeah, just getting right back up.
Oh yeah,
he can run. He's good.
He's. I wouldn't be surprised if he won the Heisman.
Really?
I would not be surprised at all.
Wow. You know what? If they, the funny thing is everybody's like, well, they're going to be 6-6 because, hey, they got some tough games coming up. They think they're going undefeated.
Oh, they do.
They're going to win this 100%. One, and then they're going to play Oregon. I don't count them out of any of these games.
Well, I don't know how you bring in 87 new players and just all of a sudden you're all on the same page. And, of course, I know a lot of them played at Jackson State, I believe.
I don't know some of the guys, but he got them. Guys from Alabama transferred there. A lot of
Trey Sanders was trying to go to Colorado.
Yeah,
I guess Dion
didn't want him.
Yeah,
went to TCU. So. He went. Where did he go to TCU?
Yeah,
there's a bunch of Bama guys there too. Yeah, that's crazy that you can flip a roster that fast now.
Well, he flipped that roster, so he had all the talent, and then he brought in Sal Sinceri, Tim Brewster. All kinds of guys that, have been around Tennessee, Alabama, Florida State. He's got an all-star coaching staff and an all-star roster. So, but to do that and build the culture that quickly is pretty shocking.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I'll be watching that too.
Oh, yeah.
So it gives me something to do. Then obviously we'll watch.
Not going to be boating Saturday.
No. I still got some sunburn from that. I got rash on my hand from Sunday. But you guys come over, come hit it. Sunday's probably going to be my boat day.
Sunday fun day.
As long as the weather holds out. Pro tip for anyone boating in this area: don't take that bay lightly. do not take that bay lightly. You think you're the captain of a vessel? Go out there on the wrong day.
Side note for all the listeners: Nick bought a fishing boat, but all he does is booze.
Yeah, that's all I do. We catch, pretty much. All right. Well, look, this was great, man. You have a great weekend too, and I can't wait to get back together on Monday. And all you guys hanging out with us again, join our roster. This is Elephant in the Room. It's part of Roll Tide Pods, Disrupt Media, the next round. Hey, how cool was it? I guess I know we're past 2 minutes, overtime. How cool was it that they played our show on the next round the other day. Like it played the next round and then we came on.
We need some more FaceTime.
Come on.
Better than Jim's face.
Hear that, Dunaway? All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us and Roll Tide. We'll talk to you on Monday.